The other day, my wife Jill and I recorded a video about everything we know so far on Assassin's Creed Mirage. However, in the following days, more and more information came out, and I felt like it wasn't really the quality of video you deserved to encapsulate what the game looks like right now. So, we're going to redo that video here. I've got a lot of different things laid out. Before we hop into it, I am doing a QA very soon, question answer video. So if you have any questions you want me to answer on like anything, not just Assassin's Creed, but anything, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, please leave a comment with QA at the beginning and let me know what you're thinking, and I'll try and get to it. But without further ado, let's hop into it because plenty was revealed on stage at Ubisoft Forward 2022, but there were a lot of interviews in the days that followed, and we're getting a lot of our information from a variety of official sources, which I will do my best to name. One of the first details revealed by the actual store page on Ubisoft for Mirage is that this game is available on most current gen and last gen gaming platforms. It can be purchased for PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S, with the Xbox platforms listed as getting a combined release, as in one disc, and then you put it in and it will either play the version for Xbox Series X/S or Xbox One, depending on what you have. So if there are people who are still on the previous generation of consoles, or maybe a lower end PC, I know for me, I haven't been able to update my PC in a couple of years here, just because of crypto mining and all this other garbage. Basically, you are still able to play this game. Now, how that impacts the game remains to be seen. I will say, in a small opinion aside, it's a good thing for accessibility that this is available to everyone. However, I know it's always a concern because the lowest common denominator tech always is kind of the baseline of what games perform at. So I know there will probably be some concern around that. We have to wait and see more information about how it works, but rest assured it is available to pretty much everybody right now. Mirage is also a far cheaper title than most of the previous entries in the Assassin's Creed franchise, at least in recent years, despite it releasing in 2023. In the United States, and I can't speak for every country with tariffs or other taxes or dollar benchmarks, the game is actually set here in the US to release at $50 USD, which is a cheaper price than the $70 benchmark of most console games that are released now, unless they're a smaller game like a Remaster, unless you're The Last of Us, or the Turtles Cowabunga Collection, Pac-Man, World Repack, stuff like that. These big AAA games, though, they're often $70. Assassin's Creed Mirage will be less than that. This game also follows a young Basim's journey to become a master assassin. The game is set, or at least starts, in 861 AD, 20 years before Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And this connection is important to Valhalla, as an older and wiser Basim was a major character in Valhalla, interacting quite a bit with Eivor. Now, I'm going to do my best with all these names. I will say I am not Persian, nor am I Norse or anything, so when I get some names wrong, I apologize, but I will say with this game that cutting off the ring finger is still a very large part of the assassin's way at this time, and Basim's ring finger is not going to be any different. As shown in the cinematic reveal trailer, this tradition is actually really common among the assassins, and it was a staple with them all the way up until the time of Altair, where he actually discovered how to redesign the hidden blade in order to maintain its usefulness without sacrificing one's finger. An interesting detail pointed out to me in the comments of the previous video that was taken down was actually that in Revelations you can see when Altair is using two hidden blades later on in his life, after he spent a lot of time with the Apple of Eden that he possessed and learned quite a bit. One of his ring fingers from earlier in life is sacrificed. He's missing a portion of that one and has the hidden blade there, but the other hidden blade has been reworked and he has all 5 fingers. Now, it's worth mentioning this takes place before the journey of Altair. Mirage takes place earlier, so we already saw Basim missing a finger in Valhalla. This isn't groundbreaking news, but it's still interesting to see the lore being followed, and it's a big part of Basim's journey focused on in the trailer is that finger removal ceremony. This trailer also revealed that a young Basim will be mentored by an assassin teacher named Rushan, who I believe I pronounced it right, Rushan. A kind Persian viewer of ours in a previous video actually helped me pronounce that name. And this student-mentor relationship between Rushan and Basim will be one key pillar of the game's story and help expand the characters over time along with the hidden ones / the assassins, but we'll get back into that later. Creative director Stephanie Boudon noted that smoke bombs are back along with throwing knives, blow darts, mines, and noisemakers. There's going to be a lot of different little time-appropriate tech that the Assassin Basim will be able to use in this game. All of these different things can be upgraded with various effects that can change depending on your preference of play. So there is still some decision making in this game, but it's mainly focused around gameplay. The last 3 games in the franchise featured the ability to control an eagle and mark targets, do things with that, especially in Valhalla, although that's a bit of a long story that we're going to skip by. I will say that that is back and has been confirmed for this game. Basim's eagle is highly tied to him in terms of story, and again here, even earlier in life, that's not going to be any different. That's going to play a central role in gameplay. The official Xbox Store description of this game actually helps us find some more information ahead of release. We find out that Basim actually starts as a street thief with nightmarish visions, who is seeking answers and justice as he navigates the bustling streets of 9th century Baghdad. Through a mysterious ancient organization known as the Hidden Ones, he will become a deadly master assassin and change his fate in ways he never could have imagined. You're able to discover a tightly crafted, narrative-driven action-adventure experience that follows the transformation of a defiant young man into a refined master assassin. We will get back to this point because this also ties into the fact that this game is not an RPG, at least not in the sense that the last 3 have been. I would argue that all of the Assassin's Creeds, even the classics, have been action-adventure RPGs, but this isn't the RPG style with things like dialogue choices and 150 hours of narrative gameplay spread out over the course of a massive world. This is a much more direct, narrative-driven focus like the original games. You're also able to journey to Alamut, I hope I said that right, the legendary home of the assassins who laid the foundations of the Creed in this heartfelt homage to the game that started it all. You can experience a modern take on iconic features and gameplay that have defined a franchise for 15 years as you parkour seamlessly through the city and stealthily take down targets with more visceral assassinations than ever before. You also can explore an incredibly dense and vibrant city whose inhabitants are said to react to your every move, and you uncover the secrets of 4 unique districts in Baghdad as you venture through its golden age. Essentially, this was described as well by Ubisoft as an age of science and discovery in Baghdad. Interestingly enough, in terms of Baghdad, scrolling down in my very long Google Doc, they actually had to do a ton of research in order to be able to recreate 9th century Baghdad. Creative director Boudon actually shared about this because it was interesting when they were researching Baghdad, because 9th century Baghdad was actually completely destroyed later on. So because of that, they talked about it and said, you know, Baghdad was totally destroyed during the 13th century, so there's actually nothing left right now of 9th century Baghdad. So it was a huge work of reconstruction with experts and with documentation from the time. We also sometimes took creative liberties because we didn't have the material to know what it was exactly. We also took inspiration from nearby cities like Samarra. There is some architecture of it left, and we took a lot from these remains, what we could have. Essentially, later on, Baghdad would be destroyed, sadly multiple times essentially over the course of its history, especially when you start getting into things like the Gulf War and other more modern things. Baghdad, a lot of that history has been lost, but a lot of it is also preserved in the surrounding areas, and the Ubisoft team worked very hard to try and recreate that sense of what this world would have been at the time. Mirage is also constantly billed as a tribute to other Assassin's Creed games. That's something we see a lot in the marketing, and Ubisoft talked about it specifically being a tribute to the very first Assassin's Creed game on their website, where they said, "Journey to Alamut, the legendary home of the assassins who laid the foundations of the Creed in this heartfelt homage to the game that started it all," which is very similar to what was said on Xbox, but they did also talk more about their roots and embracing the roots of Assassin's Creed's inspiration from the Prince of Persia franchise. Eagle-eyed, or should I say very well-informed, because I don't expect everyone to know this, viewers of this video might know that Assassin's Creed was originally going to be a spin-off of Prince of Persia. It was going to be called Prince of Persia Assassin, but it never actually came to fruition as that. It ended up branching out into its own franchise which we now know as Assassin's Creed, which ironically has kind of dwarfed Prince of Persia in terms of how many games it has, its lasting impact and stuff like that. That's not a knock on Prince of Persia, but we're still waiting for Sands of Time, that remaster, to come out. Regardless, it's interesting to actually see them embracing this, because if you look at the deluxe and collector's edition versions of Mirage, they contain digital items for Basim inspired by Prince of Persia. I have a picture of them here. This pack contains an outfit, a mount, and eagle skins, weapons, and more. AC Mirage's art director Jean-Luc Sala also gave an interview with Eurogamer where he spoke on the Prince of Persia connections and said, "We are in Persia and Assassin's Creed's origins. I'm not talking about the game origins, but the very origins of the Assassin's Creed history came from Prince of Persia, which was turned into a new game, which was Assassin's Creed 1. So it is a homage and tribute to this franchise. That doesn't mean that we are allowed or supposed to announce whatever Prince of Persia is coming next. Obviously, that's not the intention. We are a tribute to our own anniversary and origins by adding this kind of wink to the brand that was here before and we all love." A lot more information was revealed in an interview Q&A with Game Rant, where Stéphane Boudon would go on to talk about a lot of different elements of the franchise, and when asked if there are any present-day elements in Assassin's Creed Mirage, Boudon responded with, "No, we decided to not put in any present-day or future playable missions in Assassin's Creed Mirage because we wanted to really focus on the story of Basim when he was in Baghdad in the 9th century. So you are still in the Animus, obviously, it's core to the Assassin's Creed franchise, so you will start with an Animus, and there's also an ending, but we won't have any gameplay for present day during the whole game." Now, what this actually means and will turn out to be is kind of up to all of our guesses until we see more of the game. We don't really know if this means that there will be sort of an intro cutscene like we saw with something like Syndicate or Unity, where it's just really focused on the actual history, but you see someone sit down in the chair, the Animus, and actually go into the simulation. We don't know if you, the player, are again the stand-in assassin in the real world during this time. We don't really know, but what we do know is that there are not playable modern day missions or elements in this game. This is actually, believe it or not, a step away from the last few games, because despite the fact that they kind of ditched Desmond a long time ago, they have been doing more with the real world in different lore dumps and things, especially in the RPG games. So to kind of see them go back on that, I know this will be a bit of a maybe sensitive topic for some people. I actually always enjoyed and appreciated modern day. A lot of people didn't, I understand. So it's interesting that there will be an element of it here with the Animus, but you will not actually be playing it. What that will end up being, though, is kind of anyone's guess at this time. Mirage actually started as a DLC to Valhalla. This is an interesting point, but it was later fleshed out into a full game. That said, this game, Mirage, is going to be shorter than recent RPG entries like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, and will not be a huge open world RPG. They actually talked about this as well in the same interview and said, in terms of comparison, we always compare ourselves to a game like the first one, Assassin's Creed Revelations or Assassin's Creed Unity. And speaking of this inspiration with Assassin's Creed games, in the same interview, more came out about this. Mirage is said to be inspired by every Assassin's Creed, and it has aspects of all of them intertwined. The quote that follows was actually shared in this same interview. "The team was hard at work to really pay homage to the walled city of Assassin's Creed. So indeed, the most, let's say, used Assassin's Creed games were Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and in fact the whole Ezio trilogy." I think that's going to be some good news for those of you who really love the Ezio trilogy here in the inspirations. They went on to say, "But we pick up some ingredients and tools from Unity. Obviously, we are coming from this new generation of games, which are Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, and we have a lot of their DNA inside of the game, such as the fighting mechanics. For example, we create a lot of things after Origins because, in fact, we have the closest game between Origins and Valhalla. We have to tell a bit more about Bayek and his legacy in our game, but obviously we are also very close to Assassin's Creed 1 with Altair. Even if we are not in the Holy Land, we also draw some links to this future." A very interesting point in there that I think a lot of people never talked about in a lot of these different media articles or videos that I saw is that there will be ties here with this game between Bayek and this game, and obviously Altair's game coming up in the coming centuries, and this game. While it's not in the same exact area, the geographical location is not ridiculously far away, so we're going to see some influences there, especially with going back to the roots of things like climbing, moving around, world design, and of course, like I just said, Bayek and then Altair kind of tying in here a little bit. To what extent, we don't know, but it's interesting to hear that they are taking that storyline history very seriously, because despite the split, the fandom split on Odyssey and Valhalla, most people seem to really like and connect with Origins and the story of Bayek, so it's interesting to see that they are still going to tie that into this game. Parkour is actually heavily inspired in this game by Assassin's Creed Unity, and crowds of people are going to be back. This is something that was rumored for a long time, social stealth returning. If you don't really know what that is, that was the idea of moving through the crowds. This has been kind of pitched since Assassin's Creed 1. It was always a mainstay of the franchise, but as we got back earlier and earlier and earlier, yes, there were areas with crowds of people, but when you're looking at things like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, a lot of that takes place out in the open, not around huge crowds of people. So because that social stealth moving through these crowds has been a little bit absent for a long time, and it's interesting because it's going to be back here. Boudin went on to say in this interview, Unity was indeed an inspiration for us. Unity was really built for parkour with animations, etc. Unity was an inspiration, of course, but we aimed to upgrade and enhance with new animations and a quickness for Basim. Another example of inspiration from Unity is the crowd. So in Assassin's Creed Mirage, you will see a big crowd. It's been a while since you've seen such a crowd. In an interview with Arab Hardware, lead producer on Assassin's Creed Mirage, Fabien Salomon, was asked, "For the parkour system, can we say that you're going to bring back the parkour we saw in Assassin's Creed Unity, which has so far provided the best parkour system in the series?" After being asked that by Arab Hardware, Salomon actually went on to say, "This is our absolute goal indeed. We are seriously trying to reach this level with Mirage, and since Baghdad is as dense as I mentioned, we want the players to enjoy their time in the city through parkour, which was and still is one of the most important pillars that we depend on in the style of playing with Assassin's Creed Mirage." Important to note that that was translated from Arabic, and also I'm terrible at reading, apparently, despite using the fact I used to be an English teacher, but we got there in the end. The stealth detection system of this game has also been reworked, and it appears more in line with the original handful of games. There was actually a very interesting quote in the interview with Boudin, where they actually went on to say, "We have now 3 distinctive states when referring to detection and stealth. You have a warning state at first when the player can still evade pretty easily, and it's just a warning phase for the player. We have the search state, which leads NPCs to look for you and try to investigate you, and at the end we have the last stage that will be the fight and conflict. All these steps are clearly showcased to the player, and you can play with that. We also put a lot of effort into the interactions between AI, so the detection will spread between AI, and we have also created a lot of different archetypes that will play with all those stage behaviors. So, for instance, some archetypes are able to use their horn to call for reinforcements. Interestingly, on this, it's worth noting that spreading between AI is something that the franchise had a harder time doing earlier on. If one person detected you and they were near anyone, everyone knew exactly where you were. So it's interesting to me to see that this is kind of an idea they're trying to go with, of a more fluid and not artificial detection system, where maybe just because one guy notices you, unless he alerts his friends, they might not notice you right away, according to this quote. So I'm interested to see how that actually plays out. Earlier we mentioned how Alamut will be a focus in the game. This was actually a real location in history where the Assassins did exist, because as some already know by now, the Assassins Brotherhood in these games is based off of a real organization that existed in the Middle East, in the real world, in our world, in history. Mirage will actually focus on the reorganization of the Assassins from the Hidden Ones to the Assassins Brotherhood. Now, one thing I'm really happy about with this is that a lot of people, I think, whether they like or dislike the RPG games, they completely mistake what they're about. A lot of people say, well, they're about the Hidden Ones, they're about the Order of the Ancients, that's not the Assassins and the Templars. And while you can sort of make that argument in semantics, it is the Assassins and the Templars. The Hidden Ones were reorganized officially into the Assassins Brotherhood, and the Templars They started out as the Order of the Ancients, and they were reorganized later on into the Templars. They just really go by different names with a same core ethos and a few differences. Stéphane Boudon was asked about that as well, with bringing in Alamut and all of its lore and how that was to bring to life in the game. Where it was answered, it was really fascinating to be able to highlight this city because it was at this time that it starts construction. Alamut, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, I'm sorry, but if you are Persian or from the Middle East, you can just tell me how to say this. Alamut would start and the Hidden Ones are already there participating in this construction. You will witness there the whole organization of the Hidden Ones, and you know it's a pivotal moment for them. It's really when they start to ask themselves how they will leave the shadow to become the Assassin's Brotherhood. So it's not yet, but it's very soon. As a team, we wanted to showcase this in our game. Ubisoft also confirmed that a similar transformation will happen with the Order of the Ancients sort of working towards becoming the mainstay Templar order of the first game. This time period sees one of the last cells of the Order of the Ancients transform into the Templar Order, and likewise the Hidden Ones will soon become the Assassin's Brotherhood as players have come to know them in the first game. It's interesting to note that there will be a lot of different gadgetry, like we already said, a lot of different explorable elements that are going to be based off of the first handful of Assassin's Creed, and even though the term going back to our roots is vastly overused in gaming, this game appears to be, at least in concept, just that. Assassin's Creed going back to what made it Assassin's Creed in the original handful of games. I would personally argue that it starts to branch out from that a lot with Assassin's Creed 4 and beyond, but it really branched out from that sort of stuff once you got to the RPG era of open world, massive 150-hour long games or more, where you're kind of participating in this endless story. This game is not designed to be that. It's narrative, it's focused, and if you enjoyed the original handful of Assassin's Creeds, even if you're one of those people who seem to stop after Revelations, I know a lot of people didn't really play 3 and beyond and thought they were too different. Believe it or not, a lot of people thought that back then and also think that about the RPGs now. This seems like a game that's very much up your alley as a fan of that classic franchise style. So I'm interested to hear what you think down below. I'm sure there are other tidbits floating around out there on this game, but I already organized 7 pages of Google Docs to kind of get it all together. So I just wanted to do a comprehensive lore dump, I suppose, on where we're at with this game with Mirage. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this and subscribe for more content. I'm extremely excited for this game, and I do want to say if you've stuck it out this far, you're probably either a fan of this channel or of Assassin's Creed. I did want to say that we are playing through Brotherhood starting very, very soon over on our Let's Play channel, Degenerate Plays, which is in the description down below, the link to that channel. We already played through Assassin's Creed 2. We were a little out of order because we were thinking that they were going to maybe do that remake or remaster. We weren't sure of Assassin's Creed 1. Now that it looks like they're not, we're probably going to swing back around after Brotherhood to 1 and then hit Revelations. We're sort of working our way through the series, but I hope to see you over there, hang out with us, play some Assassin's Creed. It's very, very fun, and I have more AC videos coming up in the near future. If you are interested in the QA video, please be sure to leave a comment with QA at the beginning, as one word would really help me, just QA together. Then let me know what your question is about whatever you want to ask, and I'll do my best to answer it in the coming weeks in a video. So thanks a lot, have a fantastic day, and as always everyone, stay shui.